Want more success? Focus on you. Here's why. Time is the most valuable resource we possess. It is finite, and once it slips away, it can never be reclaimed. Each day grants us 24 hours, and how we choose to spend them shapes the course of our lives. Yet so often we find ourselves distracted, consumed by the lives and achievements of others, or bogged down by unimportant tasks. The true question we must ask ourselves is, how much of our time are we truly investing in our own growth? Throughout history, great philosophers have echoed similar concerns about the nature of time and its use. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, reminds us that you have power over your mind, not outside events. This simple yet profound idea speaks to the essence of self-control. Our time and energy are best spent focusing on what we can control, our thoughts, actions, and personal growth, not the external world and its distractions. In his meditations, Marcus Aurelius reflected on the brevity of life and the importance of living with intention. He warned against the tendency to waste time on trivial matters, suggesting that we should constantly examine how we spend our days. The problem, as he saw it, is that we often live reactively instead of proactively directing our energy toward meaningful pursuits. Similarly, the ancient Greek philosopher Epictetus taught that it's not what happens to you but how you react to it that matters. We waste time when we react to external events without thought, allowing ourselves to be swept away by the demands of others or by the expectations set by society. Today, I invite you to explore 6 Stoic principles that will help you stop wasting time and start focusing on what truly matters yourself. By embracing these principles, you can take control of your time, refocus your energy, and ultimately create a life that aligns with your deepest values. Let's dive in. Principle 1. The dangers of comparison. In today's world, it's easy to get caught up in the constant cycle of comparison. Everywhere we look, we see images of success, beauty, and achievement, often presented in a way that suggests these qualities are universal and easily attainable. Social media, magazines, advertisements, and even conversations with friends or colleagues can subtly encourage us to measure our lives against the standards set by others. Yet the dangers of this constant comparison cannot be overstated. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, emphasizes the importance of focusing inward instead of looking outward for validation. He famously wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." This statement calls us to stop measuring ourselves against the fleeting ideals of others and, instead, to focus on becoming the best version of ourselves. It's a reminder that true growth lies not in imitation, but in self-discovery and personal improvement. When we constantly compare ourselves to others, we fall into the trap of measuring our worth by external standards, which often have little to do with our unique potential or inner values. This is a subtle thief of time and energy. The Stoics, including Epictetus, also warned against the dangers of comparison. Epictetus, in his discourses, reminds us that it's not what happens to you but how you react to it that matters. When we compare our lives to others, we give away our power to external circumstances. The lives of others are not in our control. What we can control, however, is how we choose to respond to these external comparisons. By constantly looking at the progress or success of others, we make ourselves vulnerable to feelings of inadequacy, jealousy, or frustration, all of which are distractions from our own journey. This tendency to compare is especially prevalent in modern times, where we are constantly exposed to idealized versions of other people's lives through social media. It's easy to look at someone's seemingly perfect image and feel that we are falling behind, or that we are missing something in our own lives. But the truth is, these images often tell only part of the story, the part that people choose to show. Behind every picture of success, there are struggles, failures, and sacrifices that remain unseen. As the philosopher Seneca said, "What is that which is noble? It is to act with fortitude, not to seek attention for a success." The external appearance of success should not be the benchmark for our own achievements. The time spent comparing ourselves to others is time lost in the pursuit of personal growth. When we look around and measure our worth against others, we are not living for ourselves. We are living for the expectations or achievements set by external forces. In those moments, we are not aligning with our own values and goals, but rather living according to someone else's narrative. This constant comparison steals time and focus, both of which are irreplaceable. On the other hand, focusing on our own development and self-awareness fosters true growth. The first step in overcoming the trap of comparison is to cultivate self-awareness. As Epictetus wisely taught, know first who you are and then adorn yourself accordingly. When we understand our strengths, weaknesses, desires, and goals, we are better equipped to set realistic, achievable targets that reflect our potential, not the standards set by others. Without self-awareness, our efforts at improvement can be misguided, as we won't truly know where we stand or what we need to work on. Self-awareness is the foundation for setting meaningful goals that are not based on external achievements, but on personal growth and development. Unlike the fleeting and distorted images we often see on social media, true growth comes from continuous improvement and self-reflection. The Stoics understood that the path to virtue, happiness, and fulfillment lies in a personal journey, not one that is constantly interrupted by comparisons to others. One practical example of this mindset is Oprah Winfrey. Early in her career, Oprah faced many challenges. She was not initially seen as a promising television personality, and she was often rejected by industry leaders. Yet rather than comparing herself to other successful figures in the industry, Oprah chose to focus on her own unique strengths and vision. She worked tirelessly on improving her communication skills, creating a show that was not only entertaining but also deeply meaningful for viewers. Her commitment to her personal growth rather than to external standards of success eventually led to the creation of one of the most successful television programs in history. This principle of focusing inward rather than outward can dramatically change the way we view progress. Every time we achieve something, no matter how small, we prove to ourselves that growth is possible. It reinforces our belief in our own abilities and builds confidence in the path we are following. By embracing this approach, we learn to appreciate our own journey free from the constraints of comparison. So ask yourself, how much time have you spent today comparing yourself to others? How much energy have you invested in measuring your worth against external achievements or ideals? Marcus Aurelius teaches us that the key to a fulfilling life is not found in chasing the temporary ideals of others, but in pursuing the development of our own character. It's time to stop comparing, stop wasting precious moments, and focus on the most important project you will ever undertake: yourself. Principle 2. Embracing progress over perfection. In a world that often places perfection on a pedestal, it's easy to fall into the trap of believing that we must be flawless in everything we do. Whether it's in our careers, personal lives, or even our own self-improvement efforts, the pressure to attain perfection can be overwhelming. However, Stoic philosophy teaches us that the pursuit of progress, not perfection, is the true path to fulfillment, peace, and long-term success. This mindset shift can not only relieve the pressure that perfectionism brings, but also free us to move forward with confidence, resilience, and determination. The Stoics, especially Marcus Aurelius, understood that life is inherently imperfect. They saw perfection as an unrealistic and unattainable standard that often leads to frustration, procrastination, and stagnation. In his Meditations, Marcus Aurelius reflects on the nature of progress. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This means that the challenges and imperfections we face are not obstacles to our growth, but catalysts for it. Every setback is an opportunity to learn, adapt, and grow stronger. Instead of striving for an idealized version of perfection, Marcus Aurelius suggests that we embrace the imperfections and challenges of life as part of the process of becoming who we are meant to be. The dangers of perfectionism are multifaceted. One of the most insidious effects is that it often paralyzes us. When we set perfection as our goal, we may find ourselves constantly delaying action, waiting for the perfect moment to start or the perfect outcome to materialize. This paralysis by perfection is a direct result of an unrealistic expectation that everything must be flawless in order to be worthwhile. In fact, This mindset leads to inaction, as we continuously revise, overthink, and procrastinate. The Stoics would argue that it is far more beneficial to take imperfect action, no matter how small, than to remain stuck in the pursuit of an unattainable ideal. Epictetus, another great Stoic philosopher, warned against the negative impact of perfectionism on our ability to make meaningful progress. In his discourses, Epictetus states, "Don't expect yourself to be perfect in all things. Take small steps, improve little by little." This notion of incremental improvement is central to the Stoic approach to life. Rather than striving for an ideal state, the Stoics encourage us to focus on continuous, small improvements. Every step forward, no matter how small, is a step toward becoming a better version of ourselves. The key is consistency. Through consistent effort and gradual progress, we build the momentum needed to achieve our long-term goals, without becoming discouraged by the imperfections along the way. The need for progress over perfection is especially relevant in our modern world, where the noise of social media often forces us to measure our success against the polished images presented by others. We are constantly bombarded with curated versions of people's lives, careers, and accomplishments. The danger here is that we forget that these images are not the full picture. What we see on social media is often a distorted version of reality, edited, filtered, and crafted to highlight only the successes and happy moments. Behind those images, there may be struggles, failures, and setbacks that are never shown. When we compare ourselves to these perfect representations, we are not comparing ourselves to reality, but to an illusion. The Stoics would advise us to disengage from these external comparisons and focus instead on our own progress. The true measure of success is not whether we are as perfect as someone else, but whether we are becoming better than we were yesterday. This idea aligns with the teachings of Seneca, who wrote in his Letters from a Stoic, "True happiness is to enjoy the present, without anxious dependence upon the future." Seneca's words remind us that the joy of progress comes from the journey itself, not the end goal. By focusing on the small steps we take every day, we not only achieve our goals but also find fulfillment in the process. The pursuit of progress over perfection requires a fundamental shift in how we view failure. In the traditional mindset, failure is often seen as something to be avoided at all costs, a sign of imperfection and incompetence. However, the Stoics viewed failure differently. For them, failure was not something to be ashamed of, but a necessary part of growth. Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations wrote, "The only way to deal with this life meaningfully is to find one's passion and give it all you've got. Don't waste time trying to be perfect." According to the Stoics, failure is not a reflection of our worth or abilities, but an essential part of the learning process. When we fail, we are simply encountering a lesson that will help us improve in the future. Failure is not the end, but rather the beginning of a new opportunity to refine our approach and become better. The fear of failure is closely tied to the desire for perfection. We fear that if we don't do something perfectly, we will be judged or deemed unworthy. But this fear is often irrational, and it prevents us from taking the necessary risks that lead to growth. The Stoic philosophers teach us to embrace failure as part of the process, not as an indication of inadequacy. By reframing failure in this way, we can eliminate the pressure of perfection and instead focus on taking small, consistent actions toward progress. Over time, these small steps will accumulate, leading to significant improvement in our abilities and results. A prime example of embracing progress over perfection is the life of J.K. Rowling. Before she became a best-selling author, Rowling faced numerous rejections and struggles. She was living in poverty, raising a child as a single mother, and facing a multitude of personal challenges. Yet, rather than waiting for the perfect conditions or the perfect manuscript, she continued to write, submitting her work to publishers, despite the many setbacks. In her journey, she focused on progress, on improving her craft, persevering in the face of adversity, and refining her ideas over time. Today, she is one of the most successful authors in the world. Rowling's story demonstrates that perfection is not the key to success, progress is. Through her willingness to fail, learn, and persist, she ultimately achieved her dreams. In our own lives, we must apply the same mindset. Rather than seeking perfection, we should focus on making incremental improvements each day. As we embrace the idea of progress over perfection, we free ourselves from the chains of unrealistic expectations and open ourselves up to the possibilities of growth, learning, and self-discovery. It is through the journey of progress, through small victories and even failures, that we truly transform and evolve into the best versions of ourselves. So, ask yourself, are you waiting for the perfect moment to start? Are you afraid to take action because you fear imperfection? The Stoics remind us that progress is the true measure of success. By focusing on small, consistent improvements, we not only move closer to our goals, but we also experience the satisfaction that comes from knowing we are growing, no matter how imperfect the process may seem. Principle 3. Rejecting distractions. In today's fast-paced world, distractions are everywhere. We are constantly bombarded by notifications, messages, emails, and the lure of social media. These distractions fragment our focus and, over time, erode our ability to engage in meaningful work or personal growth. Time, once lost, is irretrievable, and the greatest thieves of time often come in the form of these daily distractions. The Stoic philosophers, with their profound understanding of human nature and the limitations of time, provide timeless wisdom on how to protect our most precious resource, our attention, and use it purposefully. Marcus Aurelius, one of the foremost Stoic philosophers, understood the importance of guarding one's time against distractions. In his Meditations, he writes, "Time is a thing that is constantly slipping away from us. Every hour, every moment, is a precious commodity that we must cherish and use wisely." For Marcus Aurelius, each passing moment presented an opportunity to live intentionally. To him, time wasted on trivial pursuits or distractions was not just a missed opportunity but a failure to live in alignment with one's true purpose. In this sense, the Stoic approach to distractions is not simply about avoiding them, but actively protecting our time from their influence and choosing to use our energy for what truly matters. In the modern age, distractions come in many forms: social, media, emails, meetings, and even seemingly harmless habits like mindlessly browsing the internet. While some distractions may appear insignificant, they accumulate and rob us of the time we could otherwise spend on productive or self-improving activities. The Stoics understood that our attention is the most powerful tool we have, and where we direct that attention will determine the quality of our lives. As Epictetus, another Stoic philosopher, wisely put it, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This metaphor illustrates the power of focus. When we listen to our own inner thoughts and needs, we become better equipped to discern what truly matters and reject the noise around us. The danger of distractions lies not only in how much time they consume, but also in their ability to pull us away from our internal sense of purpose. The modern world's constant connectivity and the barrage of external demands can make it difficult to maintain clarity about our own values, goals, and desires. When we let distractions dictate how we use our time, we begin to live reactively rather than proactively. We become controlled by the whims of external factors instead of taking ownership of our lives. The Stoics teach us that external events and stimuli are not inherently distracting. It is our reactions to them that can cause us to lose focus. The first step in rejecting distractions is to recognize them for what they are: thieves of time. As Seneca, a Stoic philosopher, reminds us in his Letters from a Stoic, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Time once spent can never be reclaimed." Every moment is an opportunity to engage in meaningful action, whether it's working toward a goal, cultivating relationships, or investing in self-improvement. By acknowledging the power of distractions, we can begin to take active steps to eliminate or limit them. One of the key strategies the Stoics employed to maintain focus was setting clear boundaries. By determining in advance what is important and what is not, we protect ourselves from the intrusion of distractions. For example, Marcus Aurelius created a mental framework that allowed him to prioritize his duties as emperor while remaining true to his personal philosophy. In his meditations, he writes, "I am not upset that you lied to me. I am upset that from now on I can't believe you." This shows that Marcus Aurelius was selective about the people and situations that were allowed to influence his thoughts and actions. He rejected distractions by maintaining strong boundaries and focusing on what aligned with his values and purpose. Similarly, in our modern lives, the power of boundaries is essential for rejecting distractions. We must set clear limits on how much time we spend on trivial tasks or unnecessary interactions. Social media, for example, can easily become an addiction if not controlled. In fact, some studies show that the average person spends hours each day scrolling through social media platforms, often with little to show for it in terms of personal growth or productivity. By setting time limits on our social media use or designating specific times during the day for checking emails, we create space for more meaningful work. The Stoics understood the importance of creating a daily schedule and sticking to it. They would intentionally allocate time for work, relaxation, and personal reflection. By following a structured routine, they were able to preserve their energy and attention for what truly mattered. Another Stoic practice to reject distractions is practicing mindfulness and mental clarity. The Stoics believed that the mind is our greatest asset, and that by cultivating mental discipline, we can sharpen our ability to stay focused on our goals. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius emphasized the importance of controlling one's thoughts. Take a break from the world and reflect. Stay in the present moment, for that is where your strength lies. This mindfulness practice, often called moment-to-moment awareness, helps us detach from the constant flow of external inputs and allows us to center our attention on the task at hand. In the same way that an athlete trains to maintain focus, during a competition, we must train our minds to focus and reject distractions. The practice of mindfulness is not only about focusing on what we do, but also about being aware of how we use our time. The modern world is full of distractions, but it is up to us to choose how we engage with them. As Epictetus teaches, if you are disturbed by any external thing, it is not the thing itself that disturbs you, but your judgment about it. This statement underscores the idea that distractions are not inherently harmful, but it is our judgment of them that determines their effect on us. If we view a distraction as an obstacle to our progress, it will consume our attention and lead us astray. However, if we treat it with indifference, acknowledging it without giving it undue importance, we can move past it and continue our work. In a practical sense, rejecting distractions also requires us to surround ourselves with people who respect our time and focus. The people we associate with have a profound influence on how we use our time. Stoic philosophers like Epictetus and Seneca were careful about the company they kept, understanding that relationships should be a source of support and inspiration rather than a drain on their energy. By choosing relationships that uplift and motivate us, and by setting clear boundaries with people who might otherwise distract us, we protect our time and mental space. Finally, rejecting distractions requires self-discipline. It's easy to get pulled into the current of constant busyness and external demands, but as Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. True control comes from within, from the discipline to stay focused on our own values and goals, even when the world around us clamors for our attention. We must cultivate the discipline to reject distractions and use our time to create the life we truly desire. In conclusion, rejecting distractions is not about cutting off the world around us, but about making intentional choices about where we invest our attention. The Stoics teach us that time is the most precious commodity, and how we spend it defines our lives. By setting boundaries, practicing mindfulness, and maintaining self-discipline, we can protect our time from distractions and focus on what truly matters. As we reject distractions, we not only improve our productivity, but also honor our most valuable resource, our time. Principle 4. The value of focusing on yourself. In a world that constantly pulls us in a multitude of directions, from the demands of others to the expectations of society, it is easy to lose sight of what truly matters. Yet, the Stoic philosophers taught us a profound lesson that remains timeless. The most important project you will ever work on is yourself. By focusing on your own growth, development, and personal values, you gain the clarity, strength, and direction needed to live a life of meaning and purpose. At first glance, focusing on yourself may seem selfish or self-centered, especially in a culture that often emphasizes the importance of helping others. However, the Stoic approach to self-focus is not about isolation or neglecting others, but about giving yourself the necessary tools to be the best version of yourself. As Marcus Aurelius wisely put it, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. To live well, we must first cultivate a strong inner foundation, built upon self-awareness, discipline, and intentional growth. When we focus on ourselves in this way, we are better equipped to help others and contribute meaningfully to society. The first step in focusing on yourself is to set clear and meaningful goals. Without goals, we drift aimlessly through life, reacting to circumstances rather than proactively shaping our future. In his Meditations, Marcus Aurelius emphasizes the importance of directing your life toward virtue and wisdom. The Stoics believed that living virtuously, pursuing wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance was the key to living a fulfilling life. By setting goals aligned with these values, we not only give ourselves direction, but also cultivate a life that reflects our deepest beliefs. Imagine, for example, an athlete preparing for a competition. Each training session is intentional and focused on building endurance, strength, and skill. Similarly, when we commit to specific goals, whether in our career, personal life, or intellectual pursuits, we build the resilience and discipline necessary to meet the challenges ahead. But just like athletes, our journey is not one of perfection. It is about incremental progress. The Stoics teach us that personal growth is a process that requires daily effort, consistency, and patience. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, emphasized the importance of treating goals like building muscles through exercise. In his Letters from a Stoic, Seneca advises that no one can achieve greatness without first learning how to be patient and persistent. Every goal we set, whether small or large, is an opportunity to strengthen our character and abilities. This is why focusing on personal growth rather than perfection is so essential. Through gradual improvement, we can achieve the remarkable without the burden of an unattainable standard. Focusing on yourself also involves eliminating what is unnecessary. Just as an athlete's focus is undistracted by irrelevant activities, so too must we remove the distractions and toxic influences that clutter our lives. Marcus Aurelius encouraged us to clear your mind of distractions and prioritize what truly matters. This is particularly relevant in today's world, where distractions come in many forms: endless social obligations, media consumption, or other people's expectations. To focus on yourself, you must learn to say no to things that detract from your growth. For instance, if you aspire to become a better writer, you must dedicate time to writing regularly and limit distractions that might take you away from that goal. The modern world is full of time wasters, whether it's mindlessly scrolling through social media or attending meetings that don't align with your goals. By eliminating these distractions, you can create the mental and physical space necessary for personal development. This practice of decluttering your life is not just about productivity. It is also about protecting your time and energy to focus on what is important. Another critical aspect of focusing on yourself is cultivating a learning mindset. The Stoics believed that personal growth is an ongoing process and that wisdom is gained through continuous learning and self-reflection. In his Meditations, Marcus Aurelius reflected that we must never stop learning, never stop improving. The commitment to lifelong learning ensures that we are constantly evolving, adapting, and sharpening our minds. Whether it's reading books, listening to podcasts, or exploring new ideas, expanding our horizons strengthens our ability to navigate life's challenges. One example of the power of a learning mindset is the story of Steve Jobs, the co-founder of Apple. Jobs was not just an innovator in technology. He was a lifelong learner who embraced new ideas, challenges, and failures. Jobs' journey was not without setbacks, but he continuously sought to improve and expand his knowledge. Even as an established figure in the tech world, he remained a student of life, constantly seeking new ways to innovate and challenge the status quo. His commitment to personal growth, both intellectually and creatively, was a key factor in his success. Learning also involves self-awareness. Without self-awareness, we can never truly know our strengths, weaknesses, or potential. Self-awareness is the first step in understanding where we need to improve and what areas of our lives require attention. The Stoics recognized that self-knowledge was the cornerstone of ethical living and fulfillment. Epictetus, in his discourses, reminds us, "Know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly." When we have a clear understanding of ourselves, we can set goals that align with our true desires and values, rather than being swayed by external pressures or societal expectations. Self-awareness not only helps us set better goals, but also enables us to maintain the right mindset. When we know ourselves deeply, we are better able to identify the negative thoughts and habits that hold us back. For example, if we recognize that we tend to procrastinate or avoid difficult tasks, we can take proactive steps to address these tendencies. Through self-reflection, we can identify patterns in our behavior that hinder our progress and consciously work to change them. While focusing on yourself involves introspection, it is also important to cultivate discipline. Discipline is the force that allows us to stay on track and pursue our goals despite setbacks or distractions. It is the ability to stay committed to our path even when the initial excitement fades. In his Meditations, Marcus Aurelius writes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This strength comes from within, through the consistent application of self-discipline. When we focus on ourselves, we must be diligent and persistent, knowing that progress takes time. An excellent example of discipline in practice is the story of Thomas Edison. Edison's journey to invent the light bulb was marked by countless failures, but his discipline and focus on his goal led him to ultimate success. Edison was known for his relentless work ethic and determination. When asked about his failures, he famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This mindset, embracing setbacks as part of the learning process, illustrates the power of discipline and perseverance in the face of adversity. Finally, focusing on yourself requires patience. Personal growth is a gradual process, and we must be patient with ourselves as we work toward our goals. The Stoics understood that life is not always a straight path. We will encounter obstacles, setbacks, and delays. But rather than becoming frustrated or discouraged, the Stoics advised us to embrace patience and trust the process. As Marcus Aurelius put it, "Do not be anxious about the future. It will come, and it will unfold as it is meant to. What you have is today." When we focus on ourselves, we must accept that growth takes time. It requires patience to build habits, to overcome challenges, and to achieve lasting change. It is only through this patience that we develop resilience and a sense of fulfillment along the way. In conclusion, the value of focusing on yourself lies in the clarity, direction, and fulfillment it brings to your life. By setting clear goals, eliminating distractions, committing to learning, practicing discipline, and cultivating patience, you create a life that is aligned with your values and aspirations. The Stoics understood that true happiness and success come not from external achievements or the approval of others, but from the continuous effort to become the best version of yourself. This journey, though long and filled with challenges, is the most meaningful project you will ever undertake. Principle 5. Resilience through self-focus. Resilience is often seen as the ability to withstand and recover from adversity. But for the Stoics, resilience was much more than simply bouncing back from hardship. It was a way of life, deeply connected to one's capacity for self-awareness, emotional control, and the commitment to progress over perfection. The Stoics believed that, to cultivate resilience, one must focus inward, on one's own thoughts, attitudes, and responses to external events. It is through this self-focus that we develop the strength to face life's challenges with composure and clarity. ultimately becoming more adaptable and persistent in the pursuit of our goals. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, repeatedly reminds us that obstacles and difficulties are not just inevitable, but also essential for growth. In one of his famous reflections, he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This mindset is the foundation of resilience. Rather than viewing challenges as insurmountable barriers, we are taught to see them as opportunities for improvement. Every difficulty presents us with a chance to strengthen our character and our resolve. By embracing life's difficulties and focusing on our internal responses, we can transform these obstacles into stepping stones toward progress. Resilience, from the Stoic perspective, is not about avoiding adversity or seeking comfort, but about accepting hardship with equanimity and using it as fuel for personal development. Epictetus, another Stoic philosopher, emphasized that while we cannot control the events that happen to us, we have the power to control our reactions. In his Enchiridion, he wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This statement encapsulates the Stoic approach to resilience. It is not external circumstances that define us, but our ability to manage our thoughts, emotions, and actions in the face of adversity. In today's fast-paced world, we are often quick to react, driven by the emotions triggered by external events. Whether it's a challenging situation at work, a personal conflict, or unexpected obstacles, we are easily swept up by our feelings. The Stoics, however, encouraged a more deliberate response to adversity. They believed that by cultivating self-awareness and practicing mindfulness, we can create a space between stimulus and reaction, allowing us to choose how to respond rather than reacting impulsively. This approach is key to developing resilience. One of the most important aspects of self-focus in the Stoic philosophy is the practice of emotional control. Emotions, while natural and part of being human, can cloud our judgment and impede our ability to act rationally. The Stoics believe that true resilience is achieved when we can detach from the immediate emotional reactions that arise in the face of challenges and instead act in alignment with our rational nature. As Marcus Aurelius said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If we allow ourselves to be overwhelmed by negative emotions, fear, anger, frustration, we can lose our sense of perspective and our ability to think clearly. But by focusing on our inner world, we can maintain control over our emotions, allowing us to face difficulties with a calm and composed mind. Building resilience also requires recognizing that setbacks and failures are not signs of weakness, but opportunities to learn and grow. The Stoics understood that failure is an inevitable part of life, but it does not have to define us. Instead of fearing failure or avoiding challenges, we are encouraged to face them head-on, knowing that each failure provides valuable lessons. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." This quote highlights the Stoic belief that to truly live, one must take risks and embrace challenges, understanding that even in failure, there is progress. It is through the continuous process of learning, adapting, and growing that we develop the resilience to overcome future obstacles. The story of Thomas Edison offers a practical example of resilience through self-focus. Edison is often celebrated for his invention of the electric light bulb, but his journey was filled with failures and setbacks. He faced rejection from investors, numerous failed experiments, and many people who doubted his abilities. Yet Edison never allowed these challenges to deter him. He was known for his famous quote, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Edison's resilience came from his unwavering focus on his goal and his ability to see each failure as a lesson rather than a defeat. His story serves as a powerful reminder that resilience is built not in avoiding failure, but in how we respond to it. For the Stoics, the focus was not on achieving an ideal outcome, but on the process itself, the constant striving toward self-improvement. This principle is encapsulated in the idea of amor fati, or the love of fate. The Stoics taught that we should not just accept the events of our lives, but embrace them with gratitude, knowing that every experience, whether positive or negative, contributes to our personal development. Marcus Aurelius put it this way: accept the things to which fate binds you and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart. This acceptance is not passive resignation, but an active choice to embrace each moment and every challenge as part of the journey of becoming our best selves. The practice of amor fati helps to build resilience by shifting our perspective from one of victimhood to one of empowerment. Instead of focusing on the things we cannot control, we begin to see that everything that happens is part of the larger picture of our lives and our personal growth. Whether we are facing a difficult relationship, a professional setback, or personal loss, embracing amor fati allows us to stay centered and focused on our internal growth, rather than being consumed by external circumstances. Resilience also requires a deep understanding of our own values and the courage to stay true to them, regardless of external pressures. The Stoics believed that living in accordance with our values was the key to both inner peace and long-term success. Epictetus famously said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." To be resilient, we must first cultivate the strength to master our own emotions, thoughts, and actions. By aligning our lives with our values, we create a solid foundation that allows us to withstand the storms of life, knowing that our actions are guided by something greater than external circumstances. In practical terms, building resilience through self-focus involves the cultivation of key habits that support our mental and emotional well-being. These habits include mindfulness, daily reflection, and maintaining a healthy routine. The Stoics practiced daily journaling as a way to reflect on their thoughts and actions, and to recalibrate their responses to life's challenges. By taking time each day to reflect on our actions, we can better understand our responses to difficult situations and identify areas for growth. This practice of self-reflection is crucial for building resilience, as it allows us to learn from our experiences and continually improve our ability to respond to adversity. Another key habit is the practice of gratitude. The Stoics recognized that even in the most challenging circumstances, there is always something to be grateful for. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, regularly expressed gratitude for the people in his life and the opportunities he had, even amidst the pressures of ruling an empire. Gratitude helps shift our focus from what we lack to what we have, and fosters a sense of contentment that builds resilience in the face of adversity. In conclusion, resilience through self-focus is not about avoiding life's difficulties, but about facing them with clarity, composure, and inner strength. The Stoics teach us that by focusing on our internal world, our thoughts, values, and responses to external events, we can develop the resilience needed to navigate life's challenges. Through the practices of emotional control, amor fati, and daily reflection, we can build the mental and emotional fortitude to persevere in the face of adversity. Ultimately, resilience is not about being unaffected by life's hardships, but about how we grow through them, strengthening our character and fortifying our commitment to the path of personal development. Principle 6. Final motivational insights. At the heart of Stoic philosophy lies a simple yet profound truth. The only thing truly within our control is ourselves. As we have explored throughout these principles, the Stoic philosophers offered us a timeless roadmap for leading a purposeful and meaningful life, one that is focused on personal growth, resilience, and inner strength. But even as we reflect on these lessons, it is crucial to remember that self-mastery is not a destination, but a journey. This final principle encapsulates the core motivation that can sustain us on this journey: the power of focusing on what truly matters and embracing the life we are meant to live, free from the distractions of comparison and external validation. Marcus Aurelius, perhaps the most well-known Stoic philosopher, spent much of his life reflecting on the fleeting nature of time and the importance of living in accordance with one's values. In his Meditations, he wrote, "Our life is what our thoughts make it." This powerful statement serves as a reminder that we are the architects of our own reality. How we choose to think, act, and respond to the world shapes our lives in ways we may not even fully realize. In many ways, the quality of our lives depends less on external circumstances and more on the thoughts and judgments we hold within ourselves. The Stoics were not advocates of passive acceptance, but rather of an active, intentional approach to living. They emphasized that life is what we make of it, and we are responsible for the choices we make, both in our actions and in how we perceive the world. This principle speaks directly to the importance of living in accordance with our own values, rather than seeking validation from others. In a world where comparison and the approval of others can often dominate our thoughts, the Stoics urge us to turn inward, to question what truly matters to us, and to align our actions with those values. The modern world offers countless distractions, many of them designed to pull our attention away from our true goals and desires. Social media, celebrity culture, and the constant influx of information can create a sense of urgency and anxiety, pushing us to focus on external measures of success and happiness. However, as Marcus Aurelius teaches us, the pursuit of external approval is a fleeting and ultimately unsatisfying path. True fulfillment lies in the alignment of our thoughts, actions, and values, regardless of how others perceive us. The Stoics taught us that it is only by focusing on our inner journey, by cultivating our character, reflecting on our progress, and staying true to our principles, that we can find lasting peace and meaning. Seneca, another prominent Stoic philosopher, offered a powerful reminder about the nature of life and time. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. This insight highlights a critical aspect of the Stoic worldview, the understanding that time is our most precious resource. We can't control the number of hours in a day, but we can choose how we spend each moment. When we waste time comparing ourselves to others, chasing after fleeting accolades, or obsessing over things beyond our control, we rob ourselves of the opportunity to cultivate a life of purpose and meaning. The Stoics urge us to use our time wisely, to focus on what we can control, and to direct our energy toward personal growth and meaningful pursuits. One of the most transformative aspects of Stoic philosophy is its emphasis on the power of our internal world. The Stoics believe that external events, whether good or bad, are not inherently harmful or beneficial. It is our judgment and perception of those events that determine their impact on us. As Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This idea is central to the Stoic approach to resilience and self-mastery. The challenges we face in life are inevitable, but it is how we respond to them that defines us. By focusing on our inner strength and maintaining control over our reactions, we can build a life that is rooted in wisdom, purpose, and peace. This brings us to the final motivational insight, the importance of maintaining a clear sense of purpose and direction. The Stoics believe that by aligning our actions with our values, we could cultivate a sense of purpose that transcends external circumstances. This sense of purpose is not about achieving external success or recognition, but about living in accordance with our own truth and integrity. As Marcus Aurelius wisely taught, the art of living is more like wrestling than dancing. It stands ready to meet all that happens. In other words, life is full of challenges and struggles, but it is through these struggles that we grow and develop. The key to a fulfilling life is not the absence of obstacles, but the ability to navigate them with wisdom, resilience, and self-awareness. To cultivate this sense of purpose, we must first be willing to let go of the need for external validation. The pursuit of approval from others can be a never-ending cycle, one that leads to frustration, disappointment, and a sense of emptiness. The Stoics teach us that true fulfillment comes from within, not from the praise or admiration of others. By focusing on our own growth, self-awareness, and integrity, we can cultivate a sense of satisfaction and purpose that is independent of external circumstances. Consider the example of the marathon runner, a powerful metaphor for the Stoic approach to life. The runner does not focus on the other competitors or seek validation from the crowd. Instead, they focus solely on their own breath, their own pace, and their own progress. Each step is an opportunity to improve, each mile a chance to strengthen their resolve. In the same way, we must focus on our own journey, not on competing with others or seeking validation. When we do, we discover that the real reward lies not in surpassing others, but in becoming the best version of ourselves. This mindset shift is liberating. It frees us from the constant comparison to others, from the need for external approval, and from the fear of failure. By focusing on our own path and aligning our actions with our deepest values, we are empowered to live a life of meaning and purpose. We no longer feel the pressure to conform to societal expectations or chase after fleeting ideals of success. Instead, we embrace the journey, with all its challenges and rewards, knowing that each step forward brings us closer to the life we are meant to live. In conclusion, the Stoic philosophers offer us a timeless message: life is what we make of it. By focusing on our internal world, living in accordance with our values, and rejecting the distractions of comparison and external validation, we can cultivate a life of purpose, resilience, and fulfillment. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. The strength to live a meaningful life lies within us, and by focusing on what truly matters, we unlock our full potential. Conclusion. Throughout this journey into Stoic philosophy, we've explored 6 key principles that can transform the way we live our lives: focusing on what truly matters, embracing progress over perfection, rejecting distractions, and building resilience through self-focus. The teachings of great philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca offer us a powerful framework for navigating the complexities of modern life with wisdom, purpose, and inner peace. The Stoics remind us that while we cannot control the external events that shape our world, we do have complete control over how we respond to them. This realization is both liberating and empowering. One of the most central themes in Stoicism is the understanding that time is our most valuable resource. As Seneca famously said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Time is precious, and every moment spent dwelling on things beyond our control, comparing ourselves to others, or chasing fleeting external validation is time lost. The Stoic approach urges us to reflect on our choices, prioritize our growth, and live intentionally, rather than reacting passively to the world around us. By focusing on ourselves and our own development, cultivating self-awareness, setting meaningful goals, and embracing the process of continuous improvement, we unlock the potential to live authentically and purposefully. The Stoics teach us that true fulfillment doesn't come from external achievements or the approval of others, but from the alignment of our thoughts, actions, and values. This inward focus enables us to reject the distractions of the modern world and remain true to our path no matter the obstacles we encounter along the way. As Marcus Aurelius taught, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. The journey toward self-mastery is not easy, and it requires consistent effort and discipline. But with every step we take, whether in moments of success or failure, we grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient. By focusing on our own journey, embracing setbacks as opportunities for growth, and living in accordance with our values, we can build a life that is not only successful, but also deeply fulfilling. The Stoic philosophy offers us the tools to lead lives of meaning, strength, and purpose. It is through self-focus, resilience, and living in alignment with our true selves that we can fully embrace the life we are meant to live. And ultimately, it is this pursuit of inner peace and authenticity that will lead us to a life of fulfillment, no matter what challenges the world may throw our way.